Hello, I'm George Kuchar. Thank you for coming. Where are you anyway? I don't know. But I make movies. I make underground movies. And I've been teaching at the San Francisco Art Institute for, must be like 38, 39 years already. Like I always used to draw as a child. What was I? Preteen. And I would made comics, me and my brother. And then we also made animated movies on the edges of my dad's books. He read, and then I would take the books and make flip movies on the side. So you flip the pages, you see animated pictures. And I like very much comic books because I grew up with EC horror comics. And I loved those. Not so much as Superman, but the EC horror comics. Then I applied. They had to go to, I had to go to a high school. So I applied to the School of Industrial Art, which later became School of Art and Design. And I was in a class with Calvin Klein, and also Gerard Malanga, who later worked with Warhol's henchman. And then Donna Kness. That's where I met Donna Kness, my big star. And so I was trained in commercial art because I was told that fine artists starve. Then I got a job in the commercial art world. First it was handing out art supplies to people at Norcross greeting cards. And it was all run by giant Amazon women who were eaten up by ulcers, and it was a horrible experience. But then I graduated and I got to do some more artwork. I worked for a television, it's NBC. This is big, Channel 4, New York local. I did the weather maps for the local news spot. I was interested in weather because I was very much inspired by a man named Eric Sloan. And he loved Americana, he loved covered bridges, and he loved the sky. And he would come out with these weather books, and all of his illustrations showed how clouds formed, and it was a wonderful way to learn the weather. It wasn't mathematical, or like in the Weather Bureau at that time, it's kind of like the military. They have shifts, and you're not supposed to talk when the shifts change and stuff. So Eric Sloan was a big inspiration for me, and I did weather maps, and my work got to be on TV, because I used to do backgrounds for the forecast. And I remember one time I did a boy and a girl holding hands going up a mountain slope. And they said, no, we can't show that. I said, why? They said, well, we don't know what they're going to do on top of that mountain when they get there. And so there was these kind of censorship problems. Every time I was working, it was money to put into my artwork. Bought art supplies. I used to do oil paintings. I love the smell of oil paint. And then I was making movies along at the same time. So the movies were, I funded it. It was cheap then, $2.35, I think, for a 8mm roll of 8mm film. So I started making movies when I was a preteen too. My aunt gave us a camera, me and my brother, and we started making these pictures. So the movies were going all along, even though I had the commercial art jobs, and I would use people on the job as the actors. And I'd befriend them and then go to their house and put them in these movies. And they were 8mm movies at the time. Then I happened to meet Bohemian people. It was Bob Cowan and a bunch of Canadians who came down here, Joyce Whelan and Mike Snow, who came to New York to have a bigger art scene, leave Canada. And they introduced me to the underground and not the commercial, but the big, underground, non-commercial world. I met them through Donna Kness, the girl I went to school with, became my star. Bob had the hots for her, and he always wanted to paint her and do things like that. So through Bob, I found out that there's a whole area out there, venue, that they were showing underground movies. And he introduced me to that crowd. I went to a loft, it was Ken Jacobs' loft, showed movies. Jonas Mekas, who was writing for the Village Voice, came and he wrote about us, and people came, and that was the start of our career there. But then I was getting ideas from the pictures I looked at. At that time, Warhol was making movies, Jack Smith, people like that. And I would see their scenes, and I'd do versions of their scenes, like I did. And then they would see our movies and get inspired. And in fact, we were making 8mm and they were doing 16mm. Then they said, hey, 8mm looks like fun. Let's switch. And my brother and I did the same thing. We said, 16, wow, you can see so much detail, let's switch. So there was like a cross current. Everybody changed what they were doing. They switched tracks. Oh, I like their films, because each one was, those times they had a lot of nudity. But if they had sex scenes, they were using big kielbases, Polish sausages, for for sex organs. And I like food, you know what I mean? So it was a good combination of stuff. And yeah, I got a kick out of their movies. And then you meet them, and they were stoned, a lot of them, you know what I mean? So that was a whole other culture I wasn't used to. Eventually, they would give me some pot, but I was so big, you had to get elephant portions. You know, like give me extra dosages. So, you know, there was a good interchange in that area too, meeting the other culture, the subculture, the counterculture. I got a phone call from Binghamton, I think it was Binghamton, New York, yeah, and it was Ken Jacobs, who I originally showed at his loft. And he said, there's a teaching position available in the Binghamton, in the college there, would you want to teach? And I said, well, I got an invitation to do a summer class in California, in San Francisco, and I have a feeling I'm going to be staying. He said, oh, that's too bad, we're going to have to get our second choice, Nicholas Ray. You know Nicholas Ray, he did Rebel Without a Cause. I mean, he was a big director. I said, second choice? What are you kidding? But he went there, evidently, and he turned it into like a weird Hollywood, they told me. He got all the students on drugs and something like that. That's what I heard, anyway. So I went to the San Francisco Art Institute, and at that time, Kerr McDowell, who had the hots for me later on, he got me a job at the place because he had a petition going around saying, let's get George in because there's too many local people teaching here at this art college, and let's get somebody from the different coast. So I got a job there, and I've been there like 39 years already. I work with the students also. We do, it's like running a movie studio. Studio 8, they go in there, I'm under contract because I'm a teacher, and they're under contract because they took the class, they have to learn something. So we make a movie, and we do it from scratch. And thank God there's a lot of junk laying around that building, because then we can make sets and stuff. Every time I'm hit with an obsession, it gets in the paintings or it gets in the artwork, you know. So there are running themes, obsessions I never quite got rid of. And then different things on my mind that happen. Oh, I've been working on diaries. And so I think we have my latest Christmas diary, if I'm not mistaken, is going to show. There's a weather diary, because I'm still interested in weather. I'm not a storm chaser, I'm a storm squatter. I just stay in a motel, and you know, you stay there 3 weeks, eat the food, and then you make a video, sometimes of what you're eating, if there's not much weather going on. And you know, once in a while I get visitors and I put them in the picture, so that's a whole other series. In fact, we saw somebody in the elevator coming down here who had been to the Berlin Biennale, and they played a whole bunch of my Oklahoma tapes. And I think there's going to be an influx of German people in Oklahoma now, because they got turned on by all that no scenery, you know what I mean, like all these open spaces and stuff. So we'll see, we'll find out. Check with the Chamber of Commerce.